Hi all, welcome back to Beanie Composter. If you watch snooker then you'll know Ronnie O'Sullivan's known as the Rocket. If you want a rocket for your Hotbin Composter, then for me the best thing to do is grass cuttings. That'll make the temperature go up like a rocket. Finally, I managed to get the grass cut. I did promise we'd do the video on the grass cuttings, so our lawn's pretty small, as you've probably seen in the videos, so we don't get loads of grass, but even the small amount we get is probably going to be, in my experience, is too much to put all in one go. So if you've cut grass before and you leave it lying around in a bucket or container, whatever, if you come back after a few days you will notice it's gone quite wet and it will sort of stick together and clump together, and if you put that all in the hot composting bin in one go, that's exactly what will happen. It just clump together and then you'll end up with the airflow being restricted, and your hot composting bin will start going cold again, and you'll think, well, 1 minute it's up to probably 60 and above, and the next minute it's dropped below 40. So for me, what I do is I separate it into probably a builder's bucket worth of grass at a time I put in. So you could probably do that every other day, as long as your compost bin's up to temperature. Although when you cut your grass it's going to look quite dry, there's actually a lot of moisture in that grass, so you're going to need quite a lot of paper when you put it in, and I always make sure I put quite a lot of bulking agent just to get the airflow going if it does sort of clump together, and I always try and put kitchen caddy or garden waste in with it as well, just to sort of mix through it. So I've got probably 2 buckets worth there divided, so I'm going to put all this one in today, and then I'll probably leave that a couple of days before I put the rest in. During the height of summer I'm not really cutting the grass that much. In Surrey here it's normally quite dry, so the grass doesn't grow that much. What I do try and do is cut the grass and keep it sort of quite fine, so you're not ending up through the season having loads to get rid of. And if I do have quite a bit to get rid of, then I just do it in batches over a few days, just to give the hot composting bin time to sort of get rid of it, although it will decompose the grass quite quickly. Although the sun's shining, the sky is nice and blue, most mornings this week it's been, cars have been frosty, even the grass has been quite frosted, so we've been in the sort of low minuses, and for me I think that's affected the hot composting bin. It is in the middle on the green, so probably around 50, but this time of year I'd expect it to be up in the 60s, if not higher. I can't seem to get it any higher than that at the moment, but I think putting this grass in will help that. But as I've said many times in the videos, it is temperamental. It isn't easy to keep it into the 60s. Even this time of year, I thought, with all my experience over the years, I thought come April that's definitely going to be flying in the 60s, no problem. But with those cold mornings, and even during the day, I think it's been like 10 degrees, so you've got a lot of cold air going in there, and it doesn't seem to get the temperature right up. But we're gonna put the grass in. I'll show you how we manage that. So if you look inside here, we're halfway in the green on the, are you looking in here? They want to see the dial. So we're halfway. That's what it's been like for probably the last couple of weeks, and I've already put some grass in a day or two ago. Not too much, but just to sort of get rid of a little bit. Before I put the grass in, I just always make sure everything is stirred around, and we're not too you know, we're quite dry in here, it's not mega wet, but we still will need quite a bit of paper. What I find best is I put the grass and, you know, mix the kitchen stuff in there as well. So I just put in like, you know, a quarter of a bucket at a time. I put in the bulking agent, and I've got some egg boxes there, and I'll get some paper as well. But what I do is I just mix that in before I put the next layer in, and then I just sort of gauge how I'm going, because if I think I'm going to put too much in one go, I'll just hold back and leave that for a day or two. Like, I try and get that all mixed in into the layer that's got the heat into it. And what you want to try and do with this grass is, because it's freshly cut, it's quite loose, so it's quite easy just to mix that in and not have big lumps. By the way, I've just found one of the bones from the 1973 hide and seek champion. So I mix that in like that, and then I add, you know, another layer, rather than just throwing the whole lot in one go and then trying to mix it. Try and make sure this, like the grass, is mixed in well, because if you sort of leave a clump like that, it'll go damp and then you'll end up with pockets of grass that are like all clumped together, and then you'll just lose the airflow and then it'll go cold again. You're going to have a word with that woman at your work. She's not shredding the paper up properly. That's quite well mixed in. What I do is I come out, you know, I'll come out tomorrow and I'll give that another stir up just to check there's no clumps. That guy with the old chainsaw thing started up, so probably a good job we're finishing now. Like I say, I'll come out tomorrow and I'll just give that another stir up and make sure there's no clumps and just check what the temperature's like. But that builder's bucket, I'm sure the hot composting bin company would say that's probably too much grass to put in one go, but for me, I find it does work, so I carry on doing what I think is right. But for you, it might, you know, you might be putting in less. It's Sunday morning, we're about probably 12 hours after we filmed the last one. Hopefully it's going to be a bit quieter now to finish off this video. But if you look in here, the dial's back to, you know, near enough 60 degrees there, which is really good. What I do is, because we put quite a bit of grass in there, I just give it a little stir just to make sure it isn't clumping all together, because overnight that could have got a bit soggy in certain places and we could have some sort of clumps forming which would restrict the airflow. But at the moment, with the dial at that sort of temperature, we should be, you know, fine. But I always do that when I put, you know, quite a bit of grass in, especially the first time, just to check. So I just pop that back in, and although I said yesterday that I'd put in some more like a day after, I think with the amount I put in there, I'd probably leave that maybe 2 or 3 days before I put the last remaining grass back in there. Or if I'm gonna do it a day after, I'd just put half a bucket in at a time this time. 3 days after we put the first fresh grass in there, this is where we're at now. It's been pretty cold, you know, during the day it's been warm, but it has been cold in the evenings, so we're just halfway there. We were, when we put the first lot of grass in, I think you'll see in the video, we were quite high. So I'm going to give this another stir up. Just check if there's any lumps of grass, you know, like bits like, you know, there, if they all stick together, you can end up having like the airflow sort of preventing the air from getting through, and that sort of makes it go a bit colder.
Sort of.
Okay, we won't say sort of because I keep getting told off about that. So I'm just going to put some, you know, egg boxes that have been broken up, and this is just, you know, from the kitchen caddy and a bit of garden waste, and a few bones in there from Sunday's spare ribs. And the rest of the grass that, you know, from that cut on Saturday, some of it is actually a bit large. And I will be putting some bulking agent in. There is a little bit in that waste that we put in, but I'll be putting a few more bits on as well. So bulking agent, I don't measure it, I just guesstimate it, and don't worry about using all your bulking agent up. There's a video online by Beanie Composter that'll show you 5 easy ways to get it free, so check that one out if you haven't already. So anyway, I just given that a good stir in, like I said in the, you know, last time, make sure it's all sort of mixed in with your bulking agent and other bits and pieces so it doesn't all clump together. And although this grass has been sitting in the shed for, you know, a couple of days, it's still quite damp and wet, so you will probably, you know, anytime you put grass in, unless you've dried it out in the sun, it will need, you know, quite a bit of paper going in there just to counteract all the moisture that's still in the grass. My best advice for the grass cuttings would be to make sure you keep your garden, you know, the grass cut quite often, and so you're not putting tons or you're not gathering up loads of grass, because, you know, if you do put loads in one go, you will get the dial going right up, but if you restrict the airflow, it will go back down again. So best advice from me is cut your grass little and often, and then always put, you know, other material in with it, plenty of paper, plenty of bulking agent, and you should be fine. Thank you everyone for all your comments. The missus really appreciates it when you subscribe. She gets all excited, so keep them coming, and until next time, enjoy.